die on the cross. And after this explanation, we should understand, as you said, his mission was not to die on that cross. So we look at the mission stated in the Bible very clearly, which was, I am sent not to die for the lost sheep of Israel, but to gather them.
Grace and peace be unto everybody, to all the brothers and sisters. This is your brother, Yehuda, and I am going to continue the Mystery Babylon series. The Mystery Babylon series to show everybody, okay, that Mystery Babylon is indeed in what we call today Saudi Arabia. Inside Saudi Arabia, Mecca is the mother city of all Muslim nations, okay, worldwide. Mecca is the mother of harlots. And Mecca sits in Arabia, Saudi Arabia. And so we are going to continue to prove our case, or prove the case that Mystery Babylon is not America. It is not Rome. Okay, it is not the Vatican. Mystery Babylon is not a worldwide system, etc. So with that being said, what I want to do first is I want to do a recap. I want to go to the book of Revelations, back to the book of Revelations real quick. Revelations 17. Revelation 17, just to do a recap from the previous Mystery Babylon video. I want to do a recap. This is Revelation 17, and I am going to read verses 10 and 11. 10 and 11. It says here, and there are 7 kings. Okay, and there are 7 kings. Now the 7 kings is Egypt, 1, Assyria, 2, Babylon, 3, the Persian Medes Empire, 4, Greece, 5, Rome, 6, the Ottoman Empire, 7. 7, okay? Yes, the Ottoman Empire was the 7th kingdom. So again, it says, and there are 7 kings, okay? 5 are fallen. 5 are fallen at this time, as I said before in a previous video, that during this time when John received a vision, okay, Rome was in power. So during this time, those 5 nations that have fallen was Egypt, Assyria, Babylon, the Persian Medes, and Greece. Those are the 5, okay, that was fallen, or that has fallen during the time of John. Okay, so it says, and it continues to say, and one is, because when John was receiving the vision, the one is was Rome, because Rome was in power when John received the vision. Okay, so it says, and the one is, this is speaking of Rome. And then it continues to say, and the other is not yet come. The other is not yet come. Now the other, when it says the other is not yet come, this is speaking of the Ottoman Empire. Okay, the Ottoman Empire. Because at this time, when John received the vision, the Ottoman Empire have not yet come on the scene. And it continues to say, and when he cometh, the Ottoman Empire, he must continue a short space. Why? Because the allies like Britain and France, they conquered the Ottoman Empire, okay, and they destroyed the Ottoman Empire, and they split it up, the Ottoman Empire. Verse 11, and the beast that was and is not, which is the Ottoman Empire, even he is the eighth. So the Ottoman Empire, the angel is showing John that the Ottoman Empire, not only will he be the seventh empire, he will arise again. This beast will arise again and be the eighth empire. And then it says, and is of the seven, and goes into perdition. So this empire, the Ottoman Empire, was the seventh, okay, the seventh empire, and it went into perdition. Okay, it went into perdition. It was destroyed by the allies like France and Britain. And then they divided up the Ottoman Empire later after they conquered the Ottoman Empire. But it says again, which was the Ottoman Caliphate, the Muslim Caliphate. I want to now go to the book of Daniel, chapter 7, and read verses 7 and 8. It says here, after this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible. Now this fourth beast is also the Muslim Ottoman Empire, okay, the Islamic Caliphate. And it says, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly, and it says, and it had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with the feet of it. And it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it. And it had 10 horns. So it says that this beast had 10 horns. Now, who are these 10 horns? What nations are these 10 horns right here? Okay, as we continue, we will see. Verse 8. Daniel continues to say, and I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots. And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of man. So this horn right here had eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth speaking great things. So this horn here is the Antichrist, which came out of the Seleucid kingdom. Those 4 horns represented Alexander, 4 generals. And from one of those 4 horns, the little horn came from, which was the Seleucid kingdom. The Seleucid kingdom came from one of Alexander's generals. So the Antichrist, okay, in Mystery Babylon could not come out of Rome or America. It could not be a worldwide system because it could only come from one of the 4 horns, which represent Alexander's generals. After he died, they split up his kingdom. Okay, so the Antichrist and Mystery Babylon can only come from one of these 4 horns. Yes, Mystery Babylon and the Antichrist could only come out of one of these 4 horns, which represents Alexander generals. Okay, could only come out of one of these 4 horns. So out of one of these 4 horns, okay, the Seleucid kingdom sprung from, and the Antichrist, which is the little horn. So it says, in this horn were eyes, or had eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth okay, a mouth speaking great things, because the Antichrist and Mystery Babylon, they blaspheme the Messiah. They blaspheme the Messiah. That is why it says right here in verse 9, I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days, meaning Christ, did sit, whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head like the pure wool. His throne was like the fiery flame, and his wheels of burning fire. Because in the verse before, in verse 8, it said that this little horn have eyes like a man, and he speak great things, meaning he blasphemed the Messiah. Islam is the only religion on the planet that blaspheme the Messiah. You don't have to believe in the Catholic or the Roman doctrine or Christianity, etc. I don't believe in that. I don't believe what these Negroes in these camps teach. But nobody can deny that they do not blaspheme the Messiah by saying he never died on the cross, that he never died for nobody. Islam is the only religion on the planet Earth that blasphemes the Messiah and says he never died for nobody. So again, it says that this beast was exceedingly dreadful and terrible, and stamped the residue. Okay, and he saw another little horn, a little horn, which is the Antichrist, that came out of one of the four horns from Alexander's generals, which is the Seleucid kingdom. So, as you can see already, it's no way possible that the Antichrist could come out of Rome or America, etc. Let's now go to the book of Revelations, chapter 13. Let me flip back and go to Revelations chapter 13. Revelations 13. And let's pick up at verse 1 right here. It says, John says, and I stood upon the sand of the sea, and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads. These 7 heads are Egypt, 1, okay, Assyria, 2, Babylon, 3, the Persian Medes, 4, Greece, 5, Rome, 6, and the Ottoman Empire, 7. So it says, a beast rose up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns. Okay, so again, the question is, as I just read in the book of Daniel, Daniel will also mention the 10 horns. Who are these 10 horns? We are going to see. We are going to see. It says, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. The name of blasphemy, as I just read in the book of Daniel. The name of blasphemy. Why? Because the beast blasphemed the Messiah by saying he never died for nobody. Islam, as I already said, is the only religion on the planet that says Christ never died for nobody. Verse 2, and the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon, it says the dragon, meaning Satan, okay, or Satan. Satan is the dragon. Satan gave him, the beast, the Antichrist. Satan gave the Antichrist, it says, and the dragon gave him his power and his seat. Satan gave the Antichrist his power and his seat. and great authority. Okay, and great authority. So it says again that Satan, the dragon, that old dragon, gave the Antichrist his power and his seat. But the question is now, where will be the seat of Satan? Where will he sit? The answer lies in the book of Revelations, chapter 2. Yes, that is the question. Where is the Antichrist seat going to be? Because it says again that the dragon, Satan, gave him his seat, his power and seat. The answer lies in Revelations 2, chapter 2. So right here in the book of Revelations chapter 2, we're going to read verses 12 and 13. Now look at the subtitle. The subtitle is The Message to the Church at Pergamos. Okay, the message to the church at Pergamos. I have another question. It clearly says the message to the church at Pergamos. Pergamos. Now, where is Pergamos located? Pergamos is located in Turkey. Turkey. And Turkey is an Islamic country, nation. Turkey also was part of the First Ottoman Empire. In fact, Turkey played a major part in the Ottoman Empire. So it says the message to the church at Pergamos, which is Turkey. Now look what Christ says right here in verses 12 and 13. He says, and to the angel of the church in Pergamos write, these things says he which have the sharp sword with two edges. Again, Christ says, write these things which has the sharp sword with two edges. Verse 13. Yeshua says, I know thy works. And he says, and where thou dwellest, or dwellest. So he says, I know thy works, and I know where you dwell at. He says, even where Satan's seat is. Even where Satan's seat is. So right here, Christ is showing you and I that Satan's seat is in Pergamos, Turkey. The Antichrist, he will sit, or his seat will be in Pergamos, Turkey. The Antichrist, not Mystery Babylon, but I have to deal with the history of the Ottoman Empire in order to understand who is Mystery Babylon. Okay, so again, Christ says, write to the church at Pergamos, and then he says, I know thy works. He says, and I know where you dwell at. I know thou dwellest, where thou dwellest. And then he says, even where Satan's seat is. Even where Satan's seat is. Now, I just read that Satan gave the Antichrist his power and seat. So now we know where the Antichrist will sit, in Pergamos, Turkey. Let's now go back to Revelations 13. Let me flip back to the book of Revelations 13. Satan, the Antichrist, will sit in Turkey, Pergamos. Christ said, I know where you dwell at. And I just read that Satan will give the Antichrist his power and seat, which is Turkey. Christ just verified that right there. Now, this is the book of Revelations 13 and verse 3. And John says here, and I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his daily wound was healed. John says again, and I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death. So how was this beast wounded to death? Another question is, how was this beast wounded to death? How was this beast wounded to death? This beast, which is the Ottoman Empire, was wounded to death and destroyed by the European allies. It was the Europeans, like Great Britain and France, that wounded the Ottoman Empire. And the Ottoman Empire, as I read, went into perdition. That is why when we go back to the book of Revelation 17, it says in verse 11, and this beast that was, which was the Ottoman Empire, and is not, even he is the eighth, and is of the seventh, and goes into perdition. It says, and goes into perdition. So now we know how, we know how it was wounded by the Allies and it went into perdition because they destroyed the Ottoman Empire. That's why also when you read Revelations 17 and 8, verse 8, it says that the beast that thou sawest was and is not, meaning at the time the Ottoman Empire have not yet come on the scene, because remember, Rome was in power when John received the vision. And it says, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit. Okay, this beast, which is the Ottoman Empire, which is the seventh empire, and will come back to be the eighth empire. It verifies this right here in verse 8 of Revelation 17, when it says, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit. Okay, and go into perdition. It will go into perdition, and it will ascend out of the bottomless pit. Okay, so we just verifying that this beast went into perdition and it was wounded, as I read in Revelation 13. It was wounded, but now let's see how it was wounded. Let us now get the history of how the Ottoman Empire went into perdition, into the bottomless pit. Let us see how France and Great Britain was able to conquer the Ottoman Empire and split up the Ottoman Empire.
The Sykes-Picot Agreement was named after Sir Mark Sykes, representing the British government, and François-Georges Picot, his French counterpart. It's a quote attributed to Sykes that showed the ambition as well as the folly of the task ahead. Picot was determined to secure control of Syria for France. For his part, Sykes raised British demands to balance out influence in the region. But among British concerns in redrawing the Middle East were the apparent promises made via a British colonel named T.E. Lawrence, better known as Lawrence of Arabia. He galvanized a Bedouin army against the dying Ottoman Empire. The areas that had been under Ottoman rule since the early 16th century ended up creating new countries and two spheres of influence. The Syrian coast and much of modern-day Lebanon went to France. Britain would take direct control over central and southern Mesopotamia, including Baghdad and Basra. Palestine would have an international administration. Sykes-Picot has been seen as a flawed arrangement.
So now we see how the Allies was able to conquer and divide the Ottoman Empire, which went into the bottomless pit, into perdition. But it says that it will be healed. Its wound will be healed. Let's go back real quick to the book of Revelations. Okay, it says that its wound will be healed. Let's go back quickly to the book of Revelations chapter 17. So now we know how it went into perdition, to the bottomless pit. Okay, but it says here, it says again in Revelation 17 verse 11, okay, after the Allies was able to conquer the Ottoman Empire, and it went into perdition to the bottomless pit. It says again in verse 11, it says he is the seventh, and it says even he is the eighth. Okay, he is the eighth. So he will come back and be the eighth empire. Let's verify this one more time. Let's jump back to the book of Revelations 13 and 3. It says again, it was wounded to death. Now you know how it was wounded to death, by the Allies. It was wounded to death, the Ottoman Empire. But look what it says here. And his deadly wound was healed. Okay? His deadly wound was healed. So it went into the bottomless pit, into perdition. Okay, after the Allies conquered and divided the kingdom. But it says that its wound will be healed, which lines up with Revelation 17 when it says that the Ottoman Empire, which was the seventh empire, will be the eighth empire. The eighth empire. It will rise again later in the future and become the Neo-Ottoman Empire, the eighth empire. Okay, that's why it says that its wound will be healed. Let us now go to the book of Isaiah. Isaiah 21, the brother Isaiah 21, and let us see how he prophesied concerning Edom. Edom and Babylon, mystery Babylon, which is the daughter, okay, the daughter of Babylon. This is Isaiah 21, okay, Isaiah 21, and the subtitle is the oracle concerning the desert of the sea. Okay, the subtitle, the oracle concerning the desert of the sea. Verse 1, the burden of the desert of the sea. The burden of the desert of the sea. It doesn't say the burden of Rome or America. It says the burden of the desert of the sea, as whirlwinds in the south pass through. So it cometh from the desert, from a terrible land.
Among the phenomena of Saudi Arabia is the dreaded shamal, a violent northwest wind that sweeps across the open plains and over the dunes, whipping up curtains of dust and sand. Sometimes lasting days on end, its blinding fury immobilizes almost every living thing on the desert. Everything, that is, but the pipeliners.
Let me read it one more time. The burden of the desert of the sea, as whirlwinds in the south, okay, in the south that pass through. So it comes from the desert, from a terrible land. But it says, as whirlwinds in the south pass through. Verse 11, the burden of Dumar. Where is Dumar located? Dumar is located in Arabia. He calleth to me out of Seir. Where is Seir located? Seir is located in Arabia. Verse 13, the burden upon Arabia, in the forest in Arabia, shall ye lodge, O ye traveling companions of the denim. So, Dumar is in Arabia. Seir is in Arabia. The burden upon Arabia, okay, which is Saudi Arabia. Edom is in Arabia. Edom is in Arabia. As you see here, Dumar, Seir, Kedar is in Arabia. Edom, Arabia. Let's now go to the book of Jeremiah, brother Jeremiah 49, okay, 49, Jeremiah 49. Real quick, the book of Jeremiah 49, and let's start at verse 7. Verse 7, concerning Edom, the prophecy, you see the subtitle, the prophecy concerning Edom. Verse 7, concerning Edom, Thus says the Lord of hosts, is wisdom no more in Teman? Teman, where is Teman located? Teman is also located in Arabia. Edom is in Arabia. Teman is in Arabia. Keep that in mind. And it continues to say, is counsel perished from the prudent? Is their wisdom vanished? Verse 8, flee ye, turn back, dwell deep, O inhabitants of Dedan. Where is Dedan? Where is Dedan located at? For I will bring the calamity of Esau upon him. Dedan is in Arabia. And it says, for I will bring the calamity of Esau upon him, which is in Arabia, the time that I will visit him. Now let's jump down to verse 10. But I have made Esau bare. I have uncovered his secret places, and he shall not be able to hide himself. His seed is spoiled, and his brethren, and his neighbors, and he is not. Okay, he is not. Now let's jump down to verse 13. It says here, verse 13, for I have sworn by myself, God says, for I have sworn by myself, says the Lord, that Bozrah, where is Bozrah? Bozrah is in Arabia. That Bozrah shall become a desolation. God says that Bozrah shall become a desolation, a reproach, a waste, and a curse, and all the cities thereof, thereof shall be perpetual waste. Perpetual waste. So Bozrah, God says, shall become desolation. Now, let's read verses 17 and 18. Verses 17 and 18. And also Edom shall be a desolation. Everyone that goes by it, they shall be astonished and shall hiss at all the plagues thereof. Remember those words. They shall hiss at all the plagues thereof. Why? Because God is going to use the new Ottoman Empire to destroy Mystery Babylon, which is Mecca, which sits in the Arabian desert, which is today called Saudi Arabia. So everybody that goes by, they shall hiss at the plagues. Keep those words in mind, at the plagues thereof. Verse 18. As in the overthrow of Sodom and Gomorrah, this is how God is going to overthrow Mystery Babylon and the neighbor cities thereof, says the Lord, and no man shall abide there. God says nobody shall abide there anymore. Today you see people still abiding in Saudi Arabia and Mecca. God says no man will ever abide there anymore. Neither shall a son of man dwell in it. Neither shall a son of man dwell in it. Now, let's jump down to verse 20. Therefore, hear the counsel of the Lord that he has taken against Edom, Edom in Arabia, and his purpose that he has proposed against the inhabitants of Teman. Where is Teman? Teman is in Arabia. Okay? So it says right here, surely, God says, surely, the least of the flock, they shall draw them out. Okay? And surely, he shall make their habitations desolate with them. Verse 21. The earth is moved at the noise of their fall, at the cry of the noise thereof was heard in the Red Sea. The cry of the noise was heard in the Red Sea. Where is the Red Sea? Where is the Red Sea located? The Red Sea is located by Arabia. God says right here, or Jeremiah wrote, the earth is moved at the noise. What noise? The missile. The missile that will be launched from Iran. And you will see, just keep watching, because Iran will be part of the new Ottoman Empire, that eighth kingdom that will rise again, as I just read in the book of Revelation 17 and 12. It will rise again out of the bottomless pit because it went into perdition because of the allies, the European allies. They destroyed the Ottoman Empire and it went into perdition. But it says it will rise again and become the eighth empire. Okay? It will rise again and become the eighth empire. And guess what? That empire will destroy Mystery Babylon. Why? We will soon see. So again, it says the earth of the noise. Okay, the earth was moved because of the nuclear missile hitting Mystery Babylon. The earth was moved at the noise of the cry that was heard in the Red Sea. The Red Sea. Who was crying in the Red Sea? We shall soon see. So, according to Revelation 17 and 8, it says that the seventh beast, which is the Ottoman Empire, that it will ascend again out of the bottomless pit and become an empire again. It will become the eighth empire, as it says in verse 11. It will become the new Ottoman Empire, and it will hate the whore. Okay? It will hate the whore. So let's go read about the new empire hating the whore. This is Revelation 18 and verse 16. Revelation chapter 18, verse 16. It says here, and the 10 horns, okay, which is the new Ottoman Empire, the 10 Muslim nations, and the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these they shall hate the whore. These shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh, and burn her with fire. So again, it says that these 10, okay, that will come back as the new Ottoman Empire, as the new Muslim nations of 10 nations in the Middle East. It says that they shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh. Now, how will they eat her flesh? Through nuclear missiles. Okay? Mystery Babylon, which is Mecca in Saudi Arabia, will be destroyed through nuclear weapons. So it says, and they will make her desolate. These 10 horns, these 10 Muslim nations, they will make her desolate. And it says, and they will burn her with fire. They will burn Mystery Babylon, which is Mecca, with fire. What is the fire? The nuclear weapons. Okay, the fire is the nuclear weapons. So they will make her desolate and naked, and they shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire through the nuclear weapons. Okay, now, with that being said, let's now go and see what nation they are going to use within the new Ottoman Empire, within those 10 horns. What nation are they going to use to wipe out Mecca, Mystery Babylon? It says that they hate the whore. Why do they hate the whore? If they are all Muslims, right? They're all Muslims, like the Saudi Arabians. They're all Muslims. But why does these Muslims, these 10 horns, why do they hate Saudi Arabia. Why do they hate Mecca? Because Mecca is allies with America and many European nations, and they supply oil to the Americans and many European nations, and these 10 horns, they don't like it. So they hate the whore. Mystery Babylon, Mecca, which is Mecca. They hate the whore. And so when the new Ottoman Empire rise up, led by the Antichrist, okay, as another nation, as a new power, which is the fourth beast, okay, the fourth beast, they are going to use a nation to destroy Mystery Babylon, which is Mecca. Now let's go to the book of Zechariah. The book of Zechariah, to see how they are going to destroy Mecca, which is Mystery Babylon, which is the mother of the biggest false religion on the planet. Let's now go to the book of Zechariah and chapter 5.